Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call this meeting of the Oakville Public Library Board to order for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. Before we get started, I'm going to read our territorial acknowledgement. The Oakville Public Library is situated on the Treaty Number 14 and Treaty Number 22 treaty lands and the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. Oakville is currently home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Regardless of where we come from, we are all interconnected through the land that we live on, the water that we use, and the air that we breathe. We are committed to a continuous learning journey and allyship. We seek to elevate Indigenous voices and lived experience to cultivate reconciliation in Oakville. Madam Committee Clerk, do we have any regrets this evening?
We have regrets from Councillor Chisholm.
Councillor Chisholm. And members of the board, any declarations of pecuniary interest to declare? I'm not seeing any, so we'll move along. You have had your minutes circulated as per 4.1 from our meeting of October 17th. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as circulated? Thank you. Celso, go ahead.
I send my regrets saying that I couldn't be, but it shows as present. So just a correction.
Your doppelganger was here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we will note that correction. And you're giving up the credit that you had for being here, even though you weren't here. You're going to lose that pay. Yeah, you move so many of the agenda items too. Anything else? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as circulated, please? Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Rebecca. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we have a number of consent items listed from 5.1 to 5.5. Are there any separations of those items? Andrew? 5.3. 5.3. Anything else? Also?
It's 5.2 is the health and safety. 5.2.
5.2. Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion to approve 5.1, 5.4, and 5.5, please? Meredith, thank you. Bill, thank you. All in favor? Those are carried. For the purposes of those who might be watching from home, we have just approved 5.1, which is the 2024 Oakville Public Library key agenda items for November 21st, 2024. We've also approved the library space booking policy, November 1st, that's today's date, what am I doing? And number 5.5, we approved the mandatory learning policy. So those have been approved, and now we are turning to 5.2 with the health and safety report, and Celso, you separated that.
Yes, I noticed a dramatic improvement year over year. Is there any hypothesis as to why?
There isn't any trend that we could identify. We did work with different sites around some of the issues. There was a number last year of cuts related to the acrylic sign holders. So we did look at replacing some of those. But there wasn't anything I can actually speak to. They were very much one-offs throughout the year.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else on 5.2? Can I get a motion to approve that? Thank you, Celso, seconded by. Thank you, Rebecca. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, second separation is 5.3. That is the performance and measures report. Rebecca, you separated that? Sorry, Andrew separated it. I can't look. I'm not able to look this direction for some reason. Andrew separated that.
Thank you. Just regarding the branch services, obviously, you know, there's a massive increase from 2019 to 2024, as well as from 2023 to 2024. And it notes that this includes things such as work and study space bookings, creation zone equipment bookings, 3D printers, and Wi-Fi sessions. I wonder if we could separate at least Wi-Fi, if not, maybe break down several of those groups, because it might make it a little more pertinent to see the relative use in the creation zone, for example.
So you want to separate Wi-Fi sessions and what else? Sorry.
Wi-Fi definitely, but if you could look at the data, it might make sense to separate out some of the other branch services, just so we can see the individual trends, because that's sort of a catch-all for a lot of different things right now, and I don't think it's really providing us with actionable, insight just looking at that massive number.
We do separate them out under branches on page 10. Mm-hmm. Did you want?
Is there a summary there as well? Sorry if I missed it.
Yeah, so on page 11, we break up the Wi-Fi sessions, the creation zone equipment, and they're all kind of separated out. What is the bungle of that initial branch services on the front page as a summary?
Right, okay. Could we get a total by service, not just by branch?
Okay, got it.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And I'll leave it to you to, decide what makes the most sense to display that, but that would be helpful.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Anybody else on 5.3? Go ahead. Avis?
So in Appendix A, the branch performance trends, which is a really helpful chart, and the explanation of the metric, in particular the physical circulation by foot traffic, which ranges from 0.4, I think it is, up to 5.9. So the explanations all make sense. I'm just wondering, is there anything that you would want to change or like influence on any of the branches to bring, like, for example, the 0.4 up at White Oaks, or is that just the way the various branches are used?
One of the key things, and you may have noticed over time, there tends to be a lot of asterisks around our foot traffic. Our foot traffic is primarily tracked through our security gates, and we've been having issues with our security gates for the past number of years. So there are instances, and I think White Oaks is one of them, where we have had issues with them being down, or the school security gates being down, and so it's not having a full picture. One of the things that we are doing, using some of the surplus for this year, is actually replacing our reliance on the security gates with individual people counters. So we're gonna switch to the same model that the town has, which will, one, allow us to do better comparisons at shared facilities and have one system. But we do have issues in being able to pull data from the security gates. They are coming to end of life. We installed them in 2016. And so that's driving some of where you're seeing the discrepancies, is that there'll be 2 months that we won't have data. And it can take a little bit for us to discover that, because they don't tell us that they don't have data. It's only when we go to do the reports that we kind of pull and realize that they've been down for that piece of counting. That being said, we are looking at just ongoing initiatives around traffic. And cardholders, our initiative around cardholders is getting them in the branch, recognizing that there are some cardholders who prefer digital services and won't come in the branch. But through our outreach in trying to get in more cardholders and getting them in and being able to show them the depth and the breadth of the service that we have. So it is tied to our initiatives in our 2025 CEO goal. Well, they're not CEO goals anymore, they're OPL goals now, around cardholder increase, but also retention, because that retention is really showing them what other services they can be taking advantage of. And it's always been interesting to me when I have conversations and I talk about different, I didn't know you had that. Oh, come in, see, talk. And so that will play a role in some of those pieces.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Avis. Anybody else? Rod?
Yes, I was wondering on the first page where it says minus 9% for foot traffic, and then there is a note pointing out that data was lost at White Oaks. If that data, is that data missing? Would it have made much of a difference to the minus 9? Like, could we have bumped it up to minus 6, minus 5, or something a lot closer to a positive? Based on 2023 data, for example, for the months that it's missing.
Apologies, I'm at the tail end of a cold. I suspect the answer to that would be yes, because White Oaks in particular, the student traffic alone is pretty significant going in and out. So it very well could have. And we did consider, trying to take an average, but we don't do that for anywhere else. So it then misaligns. So we decided just to put a note in saying it is missing it, and that this data is reflective of 2 months of missing data from White Oaks. I would suspect with that data, we would definitely be up a couple percentage points. Whether or not that's all 5 or put us in the green, I don't know. I can't remember the exact months that we missed the data.
Okay, well, I guess based on what you've just said, I'm wondering if the note could be expanded to say 2 months of whatever it is, White Oaks branch data, foot traffic data was missing. In 2023, this data was
Okay.
20,000 or whatever. Whatever it takes, because of course, I guess this and the year-end one goes to town at budget time, and you don't really want to have a minus 9% without a little bit more of an explanation, I would argue. So I think it would be worth fleshing that out a bit.
Okay. And again, we are hoping to have the new people counters in by the end of the year. So this will not be an issue for next year's data. But in comparison, it will be noted.
Thanks, Rod. Anybody else? Meredith?
I wanted to start just by saying this was a very thorough and comprehensive report, and clearly somebody spent a lot of time on it. There's some great numbers with some great notes and summaries, and there's just a lot in here. So thank you. And maybe my question is, does it make sense for this to be lumped into a consent item where we could potentially just bulk approve it? Or like, should this be like a standing discussion item the same way that we review our financial statements on a quarterly basis?
Yeah, we could definitely do that. I do, generally the rule that I have is the majority for information items really go in consent, unless there's something in particular I wanted to highlight, which is why there is a couple for information items in the discussion package. But normally a consent agenda holds everything that is just coming for information. But if the board prefers that I include it as part of discussion, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further? Andrew?
Just to follow up on Meredith's question there, is that a decision we should maybe take right now if we want to direct this to be in a discussion item ongoing, or if we leave it in consent?
You can direct it, or you can leave it to the CEO's discretion. It's your call.
How do you want to handle it, Meredith? Sorry.
I'm just a thought in isolation. I'm not sure if it reflects the opinion of the board. So if anyone else has opinions one way or the other, I am open to feedback.
I support your opinion.
Yeah.
Just as sort of a general point of board agenda management is that there's nothing lessens or increases the importance of an item, whether it's in an information section or a discussion section. I think that the typical rule of thumb is information items are information, discussion items are matters that require a decision. I mean, I know that we actually had 2 decision items this time. We had the 2 policies, but we had previously discussed them, so they were there for information. So that's generally the rule of thumb, and nothing rises or falls on it one way or the other. But it's strictly up to the board. If you want to do it, my various boards, these sorts of reports are in both sections, so it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But I'll take your direction if you would like to make that motion. Get yourself in the minutes, make yourself famous.
Yeah,
there we go.
I mean, I think just generally the topics that it covers, which are like key items relating to the board progress and achieving the OPL goals, which is cardholder foot traffic usage, it seems like they're really key topics to be covered. And so, discussing their progress, I think could be, since it's brought to us on a quarterly basis, I would move to have it be a standing discussion item so that we can unpack some of these, how many pages? 24 pages of analysis that was covered.
Sure, that's great, and that is our core business. So there's no issue. Andrew, do you want to second this since you spoke up in defense of the initiative?
I'd be happy to, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Not that it required defending. It's a good idea. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, that concludes the discussion items. Sorry, the confidential items. Sorry, I'm going to try one more time. The consent items, the other C word. We're moving on to number 6, which is confidential consent. There are no confidential consent items today, and as such, we move to 7 discussion items, starting with 7.1, our 2024 audit planning report.
So I'm going to pass this over to Jane.
Yeah. While Jane is approaching the podium, I just want to mention that there is a correction in the recommendation. So this report is not being received for feedback. It's being received today for information. So the recommended motion has been changed. Cross out feedback, add information. Welcome, Jane. Nice to see you.
Great, thank you, and good evening,
So used to
Chair.
seeing you on Zoom.
Sorry, good evening, Chair and members of the board. Is that better there?
Yeah.
Apologies. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the 2024 audit planning report prepared by KPMG. So I'm Jade Surgener. I'm the manager of accounting at the town, and I'll be the main point of contact with KPMG throughout the duration of this year's audit. And so similar to prior years, I'll present a couple things on the audit planning report, and then KPMG will be back in the spring to present the findings of their audit. And I'm not going to go over everything in the report, but I did want to highlight a couple things. And so the first, the recommendation before you is for receipt. And the reason why it is for receipt and not for feedback is that KPMG is completely independent of management as well as the board. And so they have set standards that they need to follow while conducting their audit. But it's important from a transparency standpoint that this information is presented to you so you know that their audit strategy as well as their independence. The second item that I wanted to highlight is the materiality. So this year's materiality has been set at $368,000. And so it's a big number, and it's up $18,000 from prior years, but the benchmark remains the same as 3% of revenues. And just as a reminder, KPMG tests things well below this threshold. They test random amounts and samples at all levels. And what this number means is if they find something that's uncorrected, an error to this magnitude, they would qualify their audit opinion. And so we'd stop that well before and we'd correct any adjustments. The number that I think is more important, and I think is more important to the board, is the audit misstatement posting threshold. And so that's been recorded in the report as 18,400. And so what that means is after we hand over the records of OPL to KPMG, any adjustment that they find, whether or not we correct it or not, before the audit's completed, it will, over 18,400, it will be brought to the board's attention and included as part of the audit findings report. So it is important because that materiality figure is quite large, so hopefully it gives everybody a bit more comfort that you see anything over 18,400 leading up to that figure, and we would correct them before it gets to a qualifying report. Another thing I wanted to highlight is that there are 3 new accounting standards for 2024. The first relates to additional guidance on revenue recognition when there are performance obligations in order to earn the revenue. The second relates to purchased intangible assets. And the third relates to public-private partnerships. So this is when a private entity builds, constructs, and finance an asset on behalf of an organization and maintains it into the future. And so KPMG's put in their report that they don't anticipate this to impact the library at all. And as management, I would agree that there will be little to no impact on the library, but it is included as part of their 2024 audit plan, and they will be following up with that in their audit findings report. And over the past few years, there have been a lot of new standards, and the library is no different to other public sector entities. And I do think that they're always welcome changes, because whenever there's additional guidance about how we record things, all it does is bring more information to make the statements more reliable and comparable between organizations. So I do think, although it's a bit more work, it does benefit the users of the financial statements, and it's welcomed. The other areas for the 2024 audit remain relatively the same. So the auditors are going to focus on ensuring that revenues and expenses are recorded in the correct period. They're going to be looking at our estimates around post-retirement benefit obligations. And then they'll do a lot of testing on payroll and the capital asset additions and disposals of the library's collection, just due to the size of the figure. And so KPMG explains their procedures in the report for each of these items, so I won't go into it in detail. But if there's any questions that anyone has on the year-end process, or any questions that you have for the auditors, I can help facilitate those. But as the board, you also have direct access to the auditors at any time throughout the year, and you're welcome to email them directly without management presence. Is there anything I can help clarify related to the 2024 audit plan?
Questions from the board? Not seeing any yet.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thanks. Can I get a motion to receive the report, please? Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Avis. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, moving on to 7.2, the comprehensive financial report as at September 30th. Thanks, Jane.
200.
Oh, it's on now.
Did I hit it?
Yeah, the AV turned it on.
Is it back on?
It's back on.
Okay. So as the report highlights, we are projecting just over a 280,000 surplus for this year, mostly related to ongoing vacancies that we've been having, and we've been filling those as we've been able to do so. Also highlights where we are with the development reserve and the HIP trust. It is the same as what we've normally presented, so I'm happy to take questions.
Celso.
We discussed previously about using surplus towards collections. Is there still time and possibility to do that?
No, absolutely. Collections has been given direction to spend, and so that will take place. It was after the Q3. Because we wait at different points to see exactly where that surplus is going to end. So collections has been given direction to spend an approximate extra 100,000.
So the 280 is with that 100,000 or without?
No, I think it's without that.
Thank you, Celso. Meredith?
I just wanted to ask about the surplus in personnel, because I do recall that there was collective bargaining that happened this year as well. So I didn't expect there to be a surplus. Are the vacancies really substantial that offset that?
Yeah, we do have a number of full-time vacancies that we had, some of which we are holding pending the result of the 2025 budget process to hopefully offset some of those issues related to 16 Mile. As well, the director position is a vacancy, so that's feeding into some of this as well. So it is. We have been working on, and we do budget gapping. I think we budget about $100,000 every year for gapping, and we're really looking over the next year, and I think we've talked about this, to get a better sense for that. Because one of the challenges in a particularly a part-time organization is, we have a vacancy, somebody will fill that vacancy, and then it takes 5 different positions over the sense. So it creates gapping long-term. It can take up to 8 months for us to fully fill that entire process, and that's really what drives some of this surplus beyond the full-time positions that we are holding.
Anybody else? Avis?
So on page 3, there's a description of customer experience and what the surplus is related to, and it notes that a budget of $100,000 for estimated staffing vacancies is included in this section, but is projected to be realized in the innovation and integration section. And so then I expected the innovation and integration section to be kind of offset by that. But in that section, it talks about a surplus of $206,000. So I'm just trying to understand the reference to the customer experience budget being realized in the innovation and integration section.
So I believe that is speaking to that 100,000 of gapping that we normally see come out of customer experience, and so we budget that out of the customer experience line, but we didn't necessarily see that realization out of the customer experience line. We're seeing it more out of the innovation and integration line, but we have to put that budget somewhere every year, and the customer experience being the largest staffing budget, that's where we put it. But maybe Belinda can confirm. Is Belinda on?
It's just there's a surplus in both.
Yep.
So.
Hello, I just wanted to, this is Belinda.
Hey, Belinda.
Hello. So that is exactly what the situation is. The gapping is occurring in the innovation and integration section, but it's budgeted in the customer experience section.
Still not, sorry. So what did we budget in innovation and all right, so I get the fact that it was budgeted.
So there's no budgeted gapping in innovation and integration.
Mm-hmm.
It's only budgeted in customer experience. So we budgeted a credit of 100,000 in customer experience, but we have the gapping occurring in the innovation and integration section.
So then what is the surplus in innovation and integration?
That's what it is. That's why there's a surplus, because we have gapping dollars there, right? Because there's position gaps, so there's extra funds in there.
So, okay. So if we moved the budget from customer experience.
We don't move budgets. We never move budgets.
I'm just, so let me
So
think.
the budget is credited in customer experience, but it's actually, but the gapping itself is being realized or actuals occurring within innovation and integration. So we don't move budgets mid-year. Those budgets stay in the same spot. It is always in that spot. And so we don't move things around.
No, sorry, that's not what I intended. What I meant, what I was just thinking out loud. So we essentially have 300,000 of gapping in innovation and integration. Anyway, it's really not worth spending a lot of time on this.
I would say that's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Who was next? Rebecca? No, I thought I saw your hand go up. No? Okay. I have a question that is going to be oddly naive for somebody who's sat around this table for 24 years. And that is, we're in a battle to get, maybe battle's not the right word, but we're certainly we're in a challenging position to fund 16 Mile branch. And Tara did a great job presenting, and she'll talk about it later on the agenda at council. And I was a good Crown attorney, I think, in terms of trying to lead the witness a little bit to help us get to yes. Here's the naive question. We're going to have $181,000 left in surplus at the end of the year, assuming we're spending $100,000 on collections. Is there any legitimate way on an exceptional basis because of our circumstances? Is there any way to have the town agree to carry that forward or make that part of the argument? Because it would certainly offset the $300,000 and odd that we need, a good portion of it, in order to open as projected or planned for 16 Mile. I don't know if Belinda has an answer to that, or Tara, maybe you've posed that to your colleagues in the past?
Yeah, we are spending more than just the 100,000.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Because we are paying for the people counters, as well as last board meeting, in the capital budget update, we're also paying for the room booking tablets.
Okay.
Out of the surplus. It's not a ton, but there are other things coming out of surplus. Okay. That being said, we did talk to finance about that option, and it was not. I don't want to say not well received, but not an option that they wanted to pursue. And I think, and you know, I can bring back a better answer because I don't necessarily want to put words in John Vander Heiden's mouth. But it's just. I think the view is that it's just pushing it further down the line because we can backfill it, but then in 2026 it's got to come in at some point into operating dollars, and so that it's better. I think the thing is if we can realize it as part of the budget, that is the preferred way. If that does not happen, maybe we need to look at other options. I
mean, I agree that the preferred way is to get the budget allocation. I mean, and I think it's the proper way to do it. And I think it's only appropriate that council agree to that as well.
Yep.
Because we built the darn library and we should staff it the way and operate the way that we planned. But I just wondered if that was any way of a stopgap to give any relief this year. The town will be under additional pressure this year, largely because of my other department that I chair. The police board came in at 13.8%, which is going to have an impact. So I'm just wondering if maybe that's a way to help maybe blunt that if that's possible. But if it, I mean, I guess legally it's possible, but I know there's a real not jealous is the word, but there's a real desire from the accounting folks to always secure those surpluses for our reserves.
Yes.
So I can imagine the accountants wouldn't want that, but in light of the circumstances, I'm just wondering if maybe if you could ask the question again as part of this ongoing campaign to get our money.
Yeah, what I can tell you, Andrew, is get an official answer from finance and send it out to the board.
Yeah. Okay, that's great, thank you. I'll go back for any more questions or comments on this one. Okay, this is a receipt for information, so can I get a motion to that effect, please? Thank you, Celso. Thank you, Rebecca. All in favor? That's carried. OPL goals for 2025.
So I brought forward the proposed goals last month, and there was some feedback. That feedback included adding in a goal around the local newspaper digitization project. Additionally, speaking to grants and the board wanting to know more about how we are applying for grants and what opportunities are we at least attempting to go forward with, as well as a very good comment about is 5% enough, given that when we open 16 Mile, there is an expectation that that will, in and of itself, drive cardholders. So I have attempted to address those. I added in a local newspaper digitization goal in there. It is a bit challenging because it is a third party that's taking that on, but monitoring our role, which is making sure that that project comes in on time, on budget, and does exactly what it needs to do. We added the grant stream in. I felt it was best suited for the fundraising we're looking to do to Central, but also recognizing that we're going to keep track about how many that we do across the board, and we'll report to the board on just that number, but for the goals to tie it to the fundraising piece. And then upped the cardholder up to 10% through those two lines, which will hopefully be that little bit of a stretch goal to get us past, recognizing that right now 16 Mile will likely open hopefully in September. So it's still the last real quarter-ish of the year.
Questions? Andrew?
Thank you. Just regarding the library cardholder growth, so it states increase the percentage by 10%. And I just want to clarify, I believe your intention is percentage points. So in other words, if our end of year target is 57% of households by the end of this year, you want to get to 67%? Or do you mean 10% of the 57%, which would be another 5.7%?
It would be an additional 10%.
Okay, so can we change that to percentage points for clarity, please?
Okay.
10 percentage points as opposed to 10%.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and that's consistent with the 2024 goals, the way it's, the way you've done the numbers, so thank you.
I feel like you're channeling Steve Bright back into our board meetings. Further questions on this report, Celso?
So with the changes that we suggested and recommended, the objectives, there are like 9 objectives, I think, in total, and some of them are very beefy. Do you feel it's achievable?
I absolutely do. I mean, what we've tried to do is these are things that we have to, other than I would say the card holder, those projects are underway. And so by putting metrics around how we want to achieve them is very important and is really good metric. And I think, the card holder ones in particular, I do try and identify a metric that can involve every single staff member. The new Central project, it is really a team that kind of does the majority of that work, the library, the town, the architects, other staff members as needed, but the card holders, that's one that's going to filter through every single staff member in the entire organization. So I think it reaches a good balance of those, big capital projects that we're doing anyway, along with an operational piece that I think, really helps bring the staff into the goals.
Thank you.
Thanks, also. Further? I'm not seeing any. I have a question. Who is leading the charge on the digital newspaper digitization project now that Joe has abandoned us for another library?
So right now, Monica Sokal is the acting director of innovation and integration, and so she is in partnership with our manager of collection development, is managing that project.
I know this is a goal report for 2025, but I wonder can we just get a 2-second update on where we are with that right now?
It is in the CEO update.
Oh, okay. I will be patient and wait. Thank you. Last time for questions. Can I get a motion then to approve the goals for 2025, please? Andrew and Bill, thank you. All in favor? That's carried. You did it. You got it in the minutes. 7.4, it's the goals update for Q3 2024.
Yeah, so sticking with the goals, this report speaks to where we are as of the end of September for our 2024 goals. Overall, I'm very pleased with the progress that we're making. Outside of the marketing tool, which we did get a full refund for, and the RFP for a new, hopefully fully functional tool is currently out, and we hope to have it in place early in the new year to allow us to reach that cardholder growth that we just spoke about. We are seeing continued cardholder growth, in particular related to households. So that push that we've really pushed on this year, I think we were at 50% of Oakville households in January, and we're at 57%. So we've grown 7% over the course of this year, and I feel a lot of that goes towards our increased embracing of outreach opportunities and getting out into more of the festivals, into the parks, and we're already talking about how to grow that for next year. And really get out and meet people where they are. Additionally, and I recognize that I kind of hit it in here, but is the engagement summary report for New Central. I was really excited with the level of engagement. Admittedly, I think the goal had that we would hit 2,000, and we didn't. We had over 1,000 come in for the survey, and then probably had another couple hundred through the different engagement sessions that we did have. That being said, I do think we did get some really great feedback, and it was fulsome feedback throughout the community. I think we struggled a little bit, and we kind of suspected that we would, with it being Central Branch, and that people were just like, oh, that's here, and then it really took some extra effort to get people to be like, no, this is Oakville's branch. And in fact, in the public engagement on page, it's coming. It's coming. It's at the end. On page 120 of 77 or 31 of the report, it does talk about the 8 key considerations that came out of that, and the first 2 being a landmark building for downtown Oakville. But this is what really excited me, is that, for Oakville's library, that Central Branch as a special place within the Oakville Public Library, and should be a destination that draws and connects people from across Oakville. So the majority did respond. We're relatively, but we did manage to get out into the community, particularly with the teen programming and the children's programming and some of those other pieces that we held at all branches. So overall, I think we're very excited to be able to take the engagement that we got from the public engagement, as well as the ongoing Indigenous engagement, which the first phase should complete at the end of December, integrate it all into a concept to be able to bring to the board in January.
Comments, questions? Not seeing any. Sorry, I didn't see your hand, Rod.
Just in the engagement report for Central, I see the graphics near the beginning, and there's the 2 floors and another one with 2 floors plus a roof garden. Are we still in the possible realm of getting a 3rd floor and that sort of thing that we talked about, or where are we at with that?
I think you'll be excited to see the concepts in January.
Oh. And nobody can say anything more, okay.
I can tell you that I attended most of the council sessions, for example, and I think that it was interesting to hear that council's comments were very similar to the ones the board expressed in terms of what the initial concepts were sort of very underutilized and very understated. And so we heard a lot of the same feedback, I think, anyway. I mean, the ones that resonated most with me is that they really wanted to see a greater usage of the site and more square footage and less. I think there was a general, I won't say consensus, maybe not, but pretty close to consensus that spending a lot of time and money trying to preserve the questionable heritage of that particular site was also well stated by some of my colleagues on council. So I think that there may be some more flexibility there too. I haven't seen anything, so don't think I'm holding anything back. It's Tara that's holding everything back.
Thank you.
I do have a question, though. What is the ongoing engagement on the Indigenous aspects of the consultation right now? Are you getting a lot of feedback, or?
So we've held one session so far. We have an additional 3 that we've just confirmed, and the invitation for those will go out in the next couple days. So it will be a really community kind of grassroots driven process. And Stephen Paquette, who will speak to the board as part of the CEO update, has been instrumental in really connecting with the Indigenous Oakville community. And we're seeing really great engagement and interest in participating in those next 3 sessions, which I think will allow us to be able to bring an Indigenous engagement summary to you at the January meeting that will really represent what we're hearing from the community.
So is it safe to say the Indigenous community itself is engaged and interested in this initiative? Yeah, that's good to hear.
I would say yes, yes.
Great, okay, thank you. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to receive the update, please? Thank you, Rebecca. Seconded by Rod. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, fundraising plan update.
So just updating, we do bring updates, fundraising updates, as well as what's coming up next, the health and information provider updates on a regular basis to the board. So just to kind of give some highlights, the board did get our Christmas fundraising mailer that is just about, knock on wood, Canada Post will go out. I'd be interested in your feedback. The team, including Allison, who is our fund coordinator, just came on board.
Fund
Fund. She also very fun. Actually, we should do that. Fund/fun coordinator. Allison has been working really hard with our marketing team to revamp these because we talked quite a bit about, and we were talking a little bit earlier before the meeting that, you know, around Christmas we get a lot of fundraising things in the mail, and they all tend to look the same. So we really took an effort to change it up a little bit and be able to tell our story a bit more effectively. So I'd be interested in your feedback on that. This year's goal was $83,000, which is lower than past goals, but reflects the fact that the fund development position was empty for just about 5 months of the year. As the end of October, we had raised approximately $44,717 in revenue, so we are on track potentially to hit that 83,000. I think we're very optimistic. We're participating in the Give Oakville campaign that's underway right now as part of the Oakville Community Foundation, and we've had good connections with that. Allison's also been able to connect into the community, and we just signed an agreement with Amica Senior Lifestyles, who will actually sponsor our adult book clubs for the beginning of next year. So we are definitely looking at new partnerships and new ways to kind of build capacity through there.
Is the is the mailer complete? Like, is it finalized, or is this a draft version of it? If it's going out December 2nd, is it complete now? Like,
Yes, this is the final
printed
version.
and ready to go, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just waiting for the post office to resolve its issues.
Yes.
Okay. Questions or comments on the fundraising plan? Leave your checks behind, by the way. Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering if you can expand a little bit on the Amica sponsorship and how that works.
Sure. So they are providing us with, how much is it? For $5,000, and then that will represent the book clubs that happen at Woodside, Glen Abbey, Central, and 16 Mile. So that money will just go into the organization to be able to help support that, and then there is recognition to them as a thank you as a sponsor.
There's an Amica in Bronte and another one under construction in Bronte as well, and I just wonder if they're, are they looking at, maybe having day excursions or whatever from the location to a library branch, or bringing some books like, similar to the book bike into their location or anything like that?
We haven't had those conversations yet. This is an initial relationship, but I think from conversations that we had, there's lots of opportunity.
Okay, just curious. Thank you. And my initial feedback on the mailer, I love it. I think it looks great. If I was going to add anything, I might add a QR code because we know people's time is short. They could just maybe snap and donate from their phone potentially, but obviously there's some back-end setup to be done there as well. So just one idea, but it looks good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further comments, questions? Celso?
Also, by the way, of feedback on this, knowing that it's probably done, there's probably not a lot of change room here, but I don't feel comfortable, like many, I guess, writing my credit card number on a piece of paper and mail it in, and I don't use checks. So I see that there's an online option here at the back, but it feels like if it could be more evident in the front, it would probably drive a little more.
Yeah, similar, I think, to what Andrew said with the QR code directly
That
to
would
the,
do,
to
yeah.
the page. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Further comments, questions?
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, and I don't know if that was the intention, is that you wanted feedback on the mailer or just generally on the strategy, but from my perspective, certainly, I know the target audience for these are an older generation who do open their postal mail and will reply back with a check. I might suggest encouraging monthly gifts, and I might also suggest giving suggested donation amounts and what those suggested donation, just to give what would be a reasonable donation, just people respond when you suggest donation amounts.
Okay, good, thank you. I'm glad Allison's here.
Further comments, questions? One suggestion I have is I think there should be a message from the board on these things.
Okay.
Going forward, because I think that's an important thing to recognize the relevance of the board in all aspects of our communications, and I think this would be a great place to do that. Plus, if you happen to find a way to mention everybody's name, somebody might know Bill, for example, and say, I'm going to donate because I know Bill, but any port in a storm, or maybe not. Yeah. Maybe vet every name you put on. No, but seriously, I think the board should be recognized on materials going forward, because it's we are the board, and I think it's good to make sure that they're recognized in the materials.
Yep, we can do that.
Thank you. And with that, I will give you your first, hopefully, maybe your first donation. There you go. So I've made my part. Pressure's on, and that's exactly why I did it. Okay, there are no further comments or questions. I'll look for motion to receive that report for information. Thank you, Celso. Thank you, Meredith. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to, what do we have next, is the Halton Information Providers Update.
So HIP continues to be a very valuable resource within our community, and we're always actively looking for ways to further promote it. We have had the Halton Newcomer Information Info Pods that we did in partnership through a grant with the IRCC, Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada. And so we are doing an evaluation process. We'll start that in January to really go over how successful are they out in the community. Just for, we do have a number of them out throughout Halton. It isn't just Oakville, it's Halton-wide. We have them in all 4 of the libraries, I do believe, as well as different community organizations to allow newcomers to be able to access the community services database in their language. As well, it prints out. So if somebody is in an abusive relationship and is searching for different aids, they can do that easily in their language, but also be able to print something out in order to eliminate the risk of it being sent to their email, where it could be viewed. And sometimes it's just handy to print something and be able to put it in your pocket for later. And the other thing I did really want to highlight is the role HIP is playing with the broader Halton region in terms of the encampment and homelessness project. Homeless project, and as well as the opioid action table. They frequently come for us for information, and we continue to support both through HIP as well as through the library itself.
Comments or questions? Bill.
All I was planning on saying is I was quite amazed at the difference in pages viewed between 23 and 24, 2023 and 2024. It's quite incredible. Like, that's unbelievable, actually.
Yeah.
Like, lots. So I was very happy to see that because, you know, obviously that's important. Obviously people are viewing it. So I was quite impressed with that.
Yeah.
So.
And
The
I
24 numbers are only year to date as well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right. So it's really amazing.
Yeah. And I do think the infopods and having the infopods visible in different organizations may be driving some of that. That's one of the things that I made a note to talk to Marcus about if there's a way to actually identify some of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Okay. Thanks.
I was just going to ask you, what do you attribute it to? So you're attributing that entirely to the infopods, or is there?
I suspect
was there some
that's
other
one of
initiative?
the drivers
Yeah.
related to it. As well, you know, for better or for worse, we are seeing some growing needs in the community over the past number of years. And Marcus and his team continue to do outreach to churches and organizations that provide support in order to be able to either them use it themselves in order to be able to assist people or to point people towards it in order for them to be able to do that independently.
Okay, terrific. Can I get a motion to, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand go up there. Can I, Meredith, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Bill was blocking you again.
It wasn't I wasn't clear about, will the infopods stay after March 2025, or will they go?
No, the grant money runs out in 2025, but then it's just operationalized. There is no, at this point, as far as I know, any additional costs related to it, unless, as you see, there has been interest expressed by other organizations, in which case it may be that they have to provide the dollars for the equipment, and then it just links into the system that we already have in place. But there is no intention to remove them. And it's just that's where the grant money just stops.
Okay. And then I wasn't totally clear about, like, are the infopods being used? So is the usage part of this, like, the overall directory? Like, do we know the usage rate of the infopods?
So that is what we're going to track. The infopods are basically a tablet that is isolated to the database. So the page views would include that, because the only thing you can access via the tablets is the community services database and I think the OPL website. So it's basically just a whitelisted tablet. So it would definitely impact the views. I'm not sure to what degree that's having an impact. I think that'll be part of the evaluation process that they'll undergo in January. From the information qualitatively that I've heard, I suspect that that's probably what's driving a significant amount of those increase in page views.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know if people are accessing the directory through their phone or through their home computer, or if they're going to a public space and using the infopods, just to know the feasibility of this in the long term.
Yeah.
Thanks, Meredith. Further? Can you advise, where are the infopods now?
There's two. There's one at Iroquois Ridge. There's one at QEP. There's one at Milton. Actually, Monica, can you just talk into the microphone?
Yes, so there is one at Iroquois Ridge. We have one at QEP, one in Milton, and Glen Abbey.
What was the first one again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Iroquois Ridge.
Iroquois Ridge, okay. So what's I see you've got some organizations that have expressed interest in hosting them, City of Burlington, Brant Hospital. How many can we expand to based on the current funding?
I do not know. I'd have to follow up.
Okay. Do we know how much they cost?
I don't know off the top of my head how much one of the stations costs. Fundamentally, it is a one-time cost for the equipment, and then it just connects in through the internet to a whitelisted tablet that just isolates it. But it is a tablet with a printer and a stand related to it, but I'm not entirely sure what the cost is. I don't believe there's a ton of funding left to be able to support this outside of them having to be collaborative with us.
Is there an opportunity for organizations that are interested in supporting this to actually potentially pay for the infopods in their organizations?
I think that'll be part of that evaluation process, right? So let us validate that it is as successful as we suspect it is, and then I don't see why we couldn't support that, because I do think that would be in our best interest in supporting the community, is getting the community services database into, YMCA's, different community spaces where people can access it and keep it top of mind, either for them to access at that time or even to remind them to be able to do it from home.
That's kind of where I'm coming
Yeah.
from. I think that the visual representation and the embodiment of those tablets will probably lead to much greater use within the community.
Yeah.
As a member of council that uses and refers many people to this database, I know that there's still a very low penetration rate in the community as to understanding that this service even exists. So the more that we can, in the business world we call point of sale, the more we can get these at point of sale, I think the more opportunities there will be to actually normalize this or make it part of a routine to use this as an access point to community services.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and particularly if you were looking for those anonymized opportunities as well, keeping them in plain sight so that folks that might be trepidatious to actually use their home computer for fear of the cache or whatever, an individual in the home seeing something that you've been searching. I think having those out and about and readily accessible could be very beneficial from a public safety perspective as well.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, go ahead, Rebecca.
I was just going to say, I think when we first learned about these infopods, that presentation had some cost. So, if we go back in our agenda, I think we could find that info.
That would require work. I'm just kidding. But yeah, if somehow that could be.
Yep, no, I'll follow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anything further? Not seeing any. How is Marcus doing? We haven't seen him for a while. Should invite him to a meeting once in a while.
Yes.
Okay, can I get a motion to receive the item, please? Thank you, Avis, and thank you, Bill. Boy, that hand really went up there. Went up tall and proud. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, so glad I have Bill around. Collection development policy.
So we brought the collection development policy to the board in October, and we did receive feedback, including just to update around the Film Classification Act and what we actually have the ability to enforce and what we do not have enforce. And then additionally, I think the other one was the addition of the criteria in which how we decide where books go, and it was the board's request that we add in staff expertise. I did want to highlight it because we did not do that exactly. We did update it a little bit, and that was basically taking a little bit of a nod from our library friends south of the border, where library staff have faced strong personal attacks, especially those related to collection. So we don't call out staff specifically, but we do speak to best practices and education in a bit of a broader sense. So I brought that forward for the board's consideration.
Okay, questions or comments? I just wonder, I know that in the past you've redlined documents when you've made updates to them.
I know, it should be, and I don't know whether or not.
Maybe you ran out of red ink.
Yeah.
But that's very handy to have the.
No, I know, and
red
I
line.
apologize.
Okay. Yeah, just so we can see the differences. Do you mind outlining mine in red while we wait?
So it would be particularly under access to collections. We pulled out the R and the 18A a little bit about exactly that piece. And then
I see the part about the Film Content Information Act, as well as the game. So that's good. I'm glad you got that clarified.
yes, we also clarified the bit about collections that were under legal issues and updated that from shall to may, as indicated, because you're right, it really does depend on the nature of the legal action against them, that we may or may not want to keep them in the collection. So that has been updated as well as that line that now I can't find because it's not track changes, related to education and pieces in there. And I apologize again. I don't know what happened.
Well, I think everybody's satisfied, 'cause you don't have a lot of questions, but just in future, in terms of
Yep.
in terms of the policies, because some of us that, have made comments, we like to be able to track back. I saw mine right away, the one
Yep.
that I raised about film classifications, but it's just handy to have them red lines so that we can compare.
No,
to the past.
absolutely.
Yep. We'll buy you another red ink cartridge. Okay, motion to approve this new policy, revised policy. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Rod. All in favor? That's approved. 7.8, our inclusion policy.
So we regularly bring policies that are up for review. So the inclusion policy was up for review this year. However, upon review, we didn't really see any major issues that needed to be addressed. We felt it still very much was representative of what we were trying to achieve with the inclusion policy and how it is impacting the different services and collections as they develop. The only real thing that we added to it was the inclusion of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We do try and keep a really close eye on different types of legislation, and particularly when dealing with items like the inclusion policy, we do try and back it up with different types of legislation and governing bodies in order to be able to add some, for lack of a better term, oomph to why we have these in place and the importance, and that we do align with these pieces of legislation as well.
Okay, questions about the inclusion policy? See none, motion to, this is a motion to receive for feedback. So is there any feedback? Avis, you were giving us a motion or are you giving us feedback? Motion. I guess that is your feedback, yeah. Is there a seconder to the motion? Bill? Good thing this isn't an auction, you would just one. Okay, 7.9, Friends of Library Volunteer Policy.
So similar to the inclusion policy, this one was up for renewal, so we did take a look at it. Overall, it's still representative of how we manage our Friends of the Library Volunteer. The only real change that we made to it related to the removal of, there was a statement in there about pandemic-related policies. And so we took that out because really they aren't really pandemic-related policies anymore, they're just policies. So we just updated that language.
Okay, questions, comments? I have a question. Friends of the Library is strictly a subsidiary of the Oakville Public Library, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, they were a separate organization
remember that.
years ago.
Yeah, and I was here.
Yeah, they dissolved and we
Yeah.
brought them in as just a volunteer group.
Okay, so all their finances are administered through the
Correct.
financial services, the decisions are made about the use of the funds by management or by, is there, how is the decision-making around the usage of funds administered?
So the Friends of the Library fall underneath Allison and Marcus Logan in that department. So the funds that they raise primarily through the book sales go into the development fund.
Okay.
And then the development fund is money that we pull out throughout the year in order to be able to support additional initiatives. We normally pull out $100,000 a year, and that goes towards different programs and initiatives.
That's great. Okay, thank you. I remember at one point they made the decisions about where the money went. And
Yes, we had to get their agreement about how to use it.
Yeah, and it was a little bureaucratic, but I mean, it was coming from a good place, but
Yes.
just a little, but a bit of a runaround sometimes. Okay, that's 7.9, the Friends of the Library volunteer policy. Are there any further questions or comments? Motion to receive for feedback, please. Thank you, Celso. Seconded by Rod, thank you. All in favor? That's carried. We didn't vote on 7.8? I did?
It was Avis and Bill.
We didn't vote, or? Well, what the heck? We'll just, well, you don't get extra pay for an extra vote, so all in favor of 7.8. Thank you. Carried. But no extra pay for any of you. Okay, 7.10, the CEO update.
So we'll start with some project updates. So 16 Mile construction continues to move forward. The board may remember that back in October, we did say that we were having an issue with glass and it was delayed. We are expecting it. I hadn't heard that it's here yet, but they were expecting it either the end of this week or the early next week. The mitigation plan in place for that is they've actually started to board up what they can in order to be able to start doing inside finishes. The challenge for us is that we're at the end, which means that they can't do that. Almost the entire library is glass, whereas the rec center is not. So it is going to be beautiful when it's finished, but they're starting in the rec center, and then we will come after that. So we will keep you updated on that. But they still very much tell me that we will be open by the end of Q3 2025. The new central design project, I already gave a little bit of an update on that. So the public engagement survey was part of the Q3 OPL goal report. There are 3 additional dates that we just confirmed for the Indigenous consultation, which they will then roll into the existing summary for the general public engagement, and then work on concepts, which I'm hoping to bring to the board in January. We also had a meeting with Town ELT to review some of the expectations and scope of the project, as well as confirm the parking requirements that the town wanted for Central. Really looking at, we had asked Perkins and Will to look at multiple parking options, underground parking, above ground parking, and how much that would be, and then we took it to the town. So the town very much aligned with what we were hoping for, which is basically a single level of underground parking, no above ground parking. We did look at a second level of underground parking, but the watershed is really high. So they'd have to bathtub that whole area. They don't teach you this in library school, to do that. And it was very, very cost prohibitive for what would essentially be an extra 24 spaces. So we're not losing any spaces, and I think that was the primary concern. And in the end, I think it'll serve the library design really, really well, and I'm excited for you guys to see what we're still tweaking and we'll bring in January. That being said, the design team, myself, Caitlin, as well as Brent Copeland and representatives from Perkins and Will went out to Calgary to look at Calgary Public. I do believe there was a municipal conference out there at some point this year, and so a lot of councillors had brought that up and were really sending me pictures of Calgary. So we felt it was important to go look. It is one of the newer major central libraries in Canada. It opened in 2018. And it was actually, it served some double purposes, because for those of you who may or may not be aware, they got hit with a cyber attack about a week before we got there. So we got to have some really good conversations with them as we got to go through branches that were open but had no access to technology whatsoever, and how they were surviving that. So we've taken a lot of those learnings back, which was a nice little side benefit, not for them, but for us, for being out there. And we also toured a couple other libraries, but just as a point, it is about 260,000 square feet. It's really, what is that? Yes, 260. It's very big, and it is gorgeous. They had to build it over an LRT, which was its own challenge and was a significant cost, because they had to enclose the LRT and then build on top of it. But it was a gorgeous piece. Lots of wood, which definitely gave us inspiration for the new Central, because glass and wood is there's just something about spaces that are beautifully designed with glass and wood. They had some amazing children's spaces that we were taking inspiration from, particularly since, as the engagement summary really highlights, one of the things that people love a lot about Central is the children's area. So how can we really take that to the nth degree? And actually, this is Fish Creek Library, where architecturally itself, I wouldn't recommend. It's actually, it looks like a pyramid. It's actually meant to be the mountains, but it basically is a giant pyramid, which I would not recommend as a library space. But that being said, their children's area was amazing. And they had this fire truck that they had turned into a PlayStation. And while we were there was and Kendall took some of these pictures, and good on him, because there was a was a daycare. I think there was a daycare, and there had to be like 40 kids running around, and they were all over this. And so you can see like the Bona Vista, that's actually in the bed of the truck in the back. So people can climb up and kind of see it. They could play with all the nicks, the buttons and the knobs, and the lights would go off, and they've actually cut it out and they can crawl through it. And what's not in the picture is in the back, they have a whole section with little turnout gear. And so they can wear the fire hats and the little turnout gear, and they were having the time of their lives. So suffice it to say, I've been sending these to Chief Wazano, asking for a fire truck. I didn't put it in here, but there was another library, I think it was the Seton Library. They had a full-size helicopter that they had turned into a play structure in there. So it was really interesting to see these kind of really innovative uses for vehicles that really wouldn't have had anywhere else to go, and then are seeing second life and are very, very beloved. And they were saying that people drive from all over the place in order to play on the fire truck.
Yacht, yeah, here we go.
It was actually, what we didn't take pictures of is what they had to do to that branch to support the weight of that fire truck.
Really?
Which was not a little bit. So as you had asked about earlier, there was the newspaper digitization project. So the RFP is currently out, and it will close in the next week or so, and then the evaluation team is scheduled to do a review the first week of December. So that should be onboarded in early January. One of our first actions is to get the newspapers out of Woodside and into their hands. I'll provide an update once that's all confirmed, but we did finally get the RFP out.
And the materials are being regularly checked and secured, and yeah.
The staff at Woodside are very attentive. Okay. They're very nervous with those pieces there, so they check them regularly.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And then there's not a real update with the Trafalgar Urban Core South Branch. Realty continues to work with Brant Haven. My understanding is that the latest version went to Realty early this week, and they were just going to look at it, but hopefully we'll get this signed in the next little while. It's all those legal details and words. And then we are introducing a new story walk in Memorial Park. We are expecting that project to open in December. So just a kind of a map out. A really successful story walk has 22 different stops along the way. We do try and make all our story walks consistent. That way we can move the different stories around to different parks. So the posts and signs are currently being installed, and then that story walk will go up. That being said, we do have a brand new story walk up at Tannery Park. We do change them out quarterly, but the one at Tannery Park, we do a special partnership with the Lighthouse for Grieving Children, because November is Grieving Children Month. And so we have worked with them the past number of years in putting in a very special story related to the Lighthouse and grieving children as part of the Tannery Walk for the month of November. And then I am going to invite Stephen Paquette up to introduce himself to the board. As you know, Stephen has joined us as Indigenous Knowledge Guide. So, Stephen.
Ani, Boju, Sego, Tanzi, Wachea, Hai Hai, Kwe. I bring greetings to you in just some of the different First Nations languages here on Turtle Island. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today. Some of you I recognize that we've worked with on different projects. But what I would like to do is I would like to take the opportunity to introduce myself to you. And I have a question to ask. And I always ask this, and it doesn't matter if I'm working with little ones in grade 2 or with professionals. And the question I always ask is it okay to be different?
Yes.
Is it okay to think different?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason why I ask that, just to give you some context, is because if you understand Canadian history, you would understand that as Indigenous people, for a long time, we were told that just because we were different, that we were less, that we were inferior. So I always like to gauge the temperature of the room where I'm in, so I'm glad that we're with good people here. One of the things that I would also like to share with you, and these are some of the things that I've shared a long time in my community and in other communities, and I'm so proud to be able to start to share this with the Oakville Public Library, is that one of the things that you might not know about Indigenous people, my friends, is that we all see relationships as a little different. Not just important, not just very important, but above all others, sacred. And you all know that we can have different kinds of relationships. We can have what we call surface relationships, or we can have relationships of depth where we actually get to know people, right? And so in that spirit, I would like to introduce myself in a little different way. It's how my elders have taught me how we would have introduced ourselves in a traditional way a long time ago. So, Ani Stephen John Paquette Gijnikaj. I was born John Andrew Kimawan. I share that with you because I'm a product of Canadian history, the 60s scoop. Something else that you probably weren't taught in school is traditionally, First Nations people, we all had something called a spirit name. Bamanse Bamat Windinase Gijnikaj translates into he walks a good life. Something else that you might not have been taught in school is that for most First Nations, our societies function through something called a clan system. Very important. Makwa Dodem. I'm of the Bear Clan. I'm not Canadian. I'm Anishinaabe. That is my nation of the original nations here on Turtle Island. And for those of you that you don't know, when I say Turtle Island, I'm referring to North America. Right? In my community, I am a traditional pipe carrier. I am a formal Eagle staff carrier in my community in Toronto. And in my journey, I have been a police officer. I have done social work. I have been an educator. And, I am the father to 3 beautiful daughters. I'm a grandfather. I'm a brother. I am a son to Mary Williams. I am an uncle. I'm a storyteller. And I'd like to consider myself a friend to many people. So that is my way of introducing myself, right? And so what I hope that you take away from that is that I am trying to have a deeper relationship with you than just simply providing you with my name, my job title, and where I work with. So I hope that you receive that teaching in a good way. Very proud and honored to be working with the OPL. I have a history of working with different organizations, both in Oakville and Halton all across. Very proud of the work that we have done. And it's not just me, it's the community and the people that I choose to work with in a good way. We're really excited about the upcoming features that we are going to be incorporating into the new library. And I am trying to do my best to make sure that the grassroots community understands what the OPL's mission and vision is for this. That this is not a Indigenous Friendship Center that we're building. This is just as a designated safe space within the OPL. And one of my specialties is, I guess you would say, is grassroots connections. I meet with the single moms, I talk with the single dads, I talk with the grassroots people. And from all the feedback that I'm getting is that the community is very, very happy to see that the work that the OPL is taking forward. As I say, I've just had to address some misinformation, but once they've got that, they're very happy. And one of the things that they are very happy about, I would suggest to say, is the consultation process that the OPL has undertaken. A lot of times we're consulted, but it kind of seems performative. Just tick off a box, right? And the consultation process for this, it's taking a little while. But it's taking a little while because it's being done the right way. It's being done with integrity, right? So as Tara had mentioned, we will be doing 3 more consultation presentations with the community. One of the things that we're also going to do is we're going to be doing one on a weekend to get some more people out as well. And again, I'm really working hard at that. But one of the other things that I wanted to share with you is in the interim, until we get to that new building, is at the main branch on Navy Street there, we have this designated area there. And I'm proud to say that it is starting to be utilized. We have some students with the Hilton District School Board that are coming in. I just had a visit today with one of them, and we did some talking circles. We shared some teachings and things like that. And so what they're going to be doing is they're going to be coming in every other Thursday. The other thing is, until we get our designated space at the new branch, is what I'm hearing from the community is that they would just like a place to gather, a gathering place. Again, where we can share those talking circles and we can share those teachings. So from my community engagement, that's something that I'm strongly hearing from the community that they would like to hear. And it's not so much a ceremonial space, just want to clarify that. It's just a gathering space, right? So that's where I'm going to be kind of putting my energies going forward to try and bring them in. So that's what I would like to share with you. And if anyone has any questions, I'd love to hear from them.
Members of the board, any questions for Stephen? Bill?
I don't have any questions, but I think you're a terrific spokesperson.
Thank you.
You're fantastic. Very inspirational. I'm happy you came.
Chimigwech, and as I say, it's very proud to be working with the OPL. I'll be honest, I'm a little selective of who I work with because, again, I don't want it to be performative, right? But every organization that I've worked with in Oakville, and it's been quite a few of them, and again, being very selective so that they're not performative, that this is an actual relationship that we have in regards to truth and reconciliation. Yeah. So with that, I would share two last teachings with you. In English, you would say thank you. In Anishinaabe-Moan, we would say miigwech.
Miigwech.
Thank you. And then the other one that I would gladly share with you is that, and a lot of cultures around the world do this, right? So in Anishinaabe-Moan, we don't have a word for goodbye because the hope and intention is that we are always going to see each other. And we know at the end of the day, we will see each other. So the words that we use when we part company is ba-mam-pi.
Ba-mam-pi.
Miigwech, ba-mam-pi. If there are any other questions or comments?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I echo Bill's sentiments. That was a great introduction to yourself and the value that you are bringing to OPL. It's very exciting. I'm intrigued by what you shared at the end, the gathering space that is going to start at the existing central branch and then move. Can you share a little bit more about like who is that for? Who would come and visit that? Is like myself, or like is it targeting a group of people?
Yeah. Well, I would suggest to say it's targeting specifically the Indigenous community, right? But that's not to say at some point in time, once we've kind of established ourselves a little bit better, that we've always invited the non-Indigenous community to come in. But one of the things right now is in Oakville and all across Halton, we really don't have a designated space. And that's what the community is excited about. It's, wow, we get our own designated space where we can come in, and whether we want to do a smudge ceremony or if we want to share some teachings, you know, one of the topics for conversation that I'm hearing from the community is that they want to have a safe space where they can talk about what does it mean to be Indigenous, right? And really, I think that's appropriate for just kind of the Indigenous community, but that's not to say down the road that we can't open it up to other conversations and things like that. Beautiful question, by the way. Thank you. Yeah.
Do you have that space? You said that you have some space at the main branch now.
Yes.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, the boardroom.
Okay.
And so what I'm going to be using the opportunity is when we have the next couple of consultations coming up, well, we have the community. We'll probably be meeting in the boardroom there and saying, considering this is a temporary location, what can we do to give it a more Indigenous feel? Right? And again, not performative, but what are some things? And oh, by the way, from the two students that have already visited twice, we need a mini fridge so that they can put their apple juice in there. And they would also like to see some beanbag chairs as well. Food for thought.
Do you have a budget for that now?
Not yet. We're working on it. I'm sure we do.
Tara, come on.
I'm sure we do.
Give the kids their juice fridge.
Yep. Budget is not my forte.
No. Anything further for Stephen?
I have a mini fridge I can bring.
Yeah? Well, you got a donation of a mini fridge.
That's it?
Yep. She's being real, I think.
Yeah, real. Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Excellent.
Anything further? Any bean bags? Thanks, Stephen. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Miigwech, bon
Miigwech.
appetit.
Miigwech.
Just following up on that, we finished Treaty Recognition Week. Stephen was on board, and we hosted several moccasin identifier projects that Stephen helped lead for us that were really thoughtful projects and really engaged the community and kids. We also are undergoing a Demystifying Religion series with our leadership team. One of the challenges we've encountered over the past number of years as our workforce has diversified is a diversification of religion and religious expectations. And so we did an initial session, I can't remember if any of you were there, at Staff Development Day in the afternoon. We had the executive director, Brian from Encounter World Religions, come in and do a really broad religious literacy session for all of staff that was really well received. But leading diverse teams required a bit more in-depth information. So we have started the Demystifying Religion series with the leaders. It is 6 different sessions on the top 6 major religions in order to be able to understand what impacts that those have not only to staff and customers, and some of that is it's all new territory, and it's really good for us to get a better understanding of different holidays around Ramadan, not leaving it entirely up to staff to bring these things forward, but to have open dialogue and at least have some base level of understanding about what that means. And this really came about over the past number of years where there's an expectation to recognize holidays. And it really became clear through that as a Catholic, I really don't understand or know all the major holidays. I mean, I always thought Hanukkah was the major Jewish holiday, only to learn that isn't true. And it's that Christian lens. Christmas, Hanukkah, Christmas is major, Hanukkah must be major. And so this is helping us have those conversations and really recognizing what are those holidays, what accommodations and conversations should we be having, what do they entail, what is needed, how can we support, even growing expectations around spaces for prayer or quiet meditation, like what do those spaces truly need to have, and what should they reflect? And so this is helping create some initial conversations around that. And the first session was really well received, and so we'll be doing 5 more over the next 5 months. We did participate in the Santa Claus Parade again this year. So this is year 2 that we've been back, and we will definitely be back moving forward. We were once again, knock on wood, blessed with fantastic weather. It was a packed streets all the way through. Last year we were handing out stickers, and we ran out of stickers in the first 2 blocks. So this year we ordered 10,000 stickers. And we did have some left, but what we discovered is they were really popular, and it was really hard to give out 10,000 stickers while trying to keep up to parade pace. And we brought our courier van this year. People were really excited last year with the book bikes, 'cause I think the novelty for the book bikes. But the courier definitely, I think, provided more brand recognition for us. Avis joined us, and I think can speak to how much it means when you walk that route, and Monica was there as well, and people scream, "It's the library, we love the library, it's the library, we love the library."
Yeah, I'll just say that when I did it last year, I was holding the banner, and I could hear people calling out, "Oh, I love the library, I love books." But this year I was running with the stickers, and so it was it was so interactive, and all of the kids, I mean, they love stickers, but I got so much feedback about loving books and loving the library. It's their favorite place, and adults as well, but lots of kids.
Yeah, we had parents run after us. My kid didn't get his OPL sticker. So we wanted to make sure, in the end, I was just handing out chunks of stickers. pictures for them to share. And it was also lovely. We were just there. We're going later today. So again, I will ask again next year if anybody else wants to join. It is there's a picture book that says what is it? Fill the bucket. It's definitely a day that fills that bucket. And I just would be remiss if I didn't just spend a moment talking about Eric Silius. Eric Silius is the branch assistant who passed away on November 11th. He was a beloved member of the team. He'd been with us about 12 or 13 years at a number of different branches, but he was very much a fixture of Iroquois Ridge. And we have seen a significant outpouring of love and support from not only the community as a whole and the residents of Oakville, but the town and the various partners that he worked with. So, yeah. Happy to take questions.
Questions for Tara? Bill?
I was interested, getting back to the parking there at the library. How many parking spots are there going to be under there at the library?
57.
Sounds good. Okay.
That's not final though. That's proposed at this point, correct? Which library are we talking about? 16 Mile or main branch? Yeah, downtown. Yeah. So have we concluded that it's going to be 57? Because there was some talk about potentially doing something different with that underground garage.
The proposal that will come forward will include 57.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. I kind of feel like the town should take advantage of the space and create a bit of a parking authority there and create more space, but I'll have that conversation at a different table. Further comments? I have one. It may be just a little unorthodox, but in light of, I just want to ask a question about what Steve was talking about in terms of that Indigenous space, the safe space in our former boardroom. And you're welcome, by the way. We've abandoned it. Can we authorize a budget here from the development reserve potentially to give that?
You sure can.
Yeah, because I'd like the board to take a role in that and provide some funding so that Stephen and his team can make some decisions about what they'd like to do with that space and personalize it for their use. Yeah, board, do you like this idea?
Yeah, maybe buy a new fridge. Just like mine.
Yeah, and beanbag chairs are expensive. I've had to buy them, so I'm thinking that. What do you think would be a reasonable? Stephen, how much do you think you need? Tara, how much do you think they need?
I don't know how much beanbag chairs are. We can start with 5,000.
Okay, I like that idea. Can I get a motion to approve a budget allocation of $5,000 towards Indigenous safe spaces? Stephen, you're going to vote? Moved by Stephen Paquette. So it's a $5,000 allocation to the budget from our development reserve, right? Or is it you call it just
the development fund?
Development fund. Thank you. For use by the for the Indigenous safe space. Is it safe space? Is that what we're calling it? Gathering space. Thank you for the Indigenous gathering space at Main Branch. That's the motion. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Celso. Any further comments or questions on this? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, go buy the kids some beanbags, buddy.
Or let them tell you what they want,
Yeah.
what more they want.
Well, it sounds like that's what they wanted,
Yeah.
so.
Just all beanbags.
Yeah, maybe buy them some apple juice, too.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get a motion to receive the CEO's update, please? Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Rebecca. All in favor? Meredith, sorry, all in favor? That's carried. Everything's Rebecca. It's all about Rebecca. Rebecca.
Excuse me, Rebecca needs a break.
Well, we're going to take a short break in just a second before we go into the confidential session. So there is a matter on the agenda which is going to lead to a confidential session, which is the board evaluation public report. The public report is very self-explanatory, and I guess the question is, do you want to go in closed session to discuss the full report? Is there a need to? Okay, so I'll look for motion to receive. Did you want to go into private session to discuss the report?
No.
No? I will take a motion to both receive the report for discussion 711, as well as the 8.1 Board Evaluation Confidential Report. Can I get that motion, please? Bill?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bill moved it, and who seconded it? Meredith is seconding it. Any further comments or questions? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, that's approved. And I will say that I thought that was a great exercise, by the way. I really enjoyed the comment. Oh, I particularly enjoyed the comments, but I thought that the feedback was really useful, and we can certainly incorporate that into the ongoing operation of the board. I'll certainly take it all under consideration, and maybe Tara and I can have a conversation at some point in the next few weeks just to talk about the individual items and see how we can implement some of those things.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, do we need to vote on that? Didn't I just vote?
And then all together, all of it, all of us? I think
I got a motion. I got the motion on the seconder, but we didn't vote? Did we vote? But we voted. Okay. All in favor? Carried. It didn't change. That's good. That's the worst part, when it changes between votes. We still voted. Any new business to come before the board tonight? Not that I see. I do have one announcement I'd just like to bring to your attention. The Oak Park Neighborhood Center is holding a charity, it's not much of a charity event because it's very small, but for Giving Tuesday on Tuesday, December 3rd, they'll be screening the film Uncharitable, which is a very interesting documentary. It's acclaimed documentary on charitable giving and the charity community. They'll be screening at 7 p.m. at film.ca. Admission is $10. All the money goes to the charitable project, or the charitable objects of the Oak Park Neighborhood Center. Everybody here is involved in community and organizations and such. I think you'd find the movie quite interesting. It's certainly winning great praise for everybody who sees it, and it's eye-opening. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that. You can, December 3rd, it's Giving Tuesday. Admission is $10, and you can buy tickets on Eventbrite.
Is that the Oak Park Community Center?
It's at film.ca, but it benefits the Oak Park Neighborhood Center. The executive director there has a connection to the CEO.
Is that right?
Yeah. But we're very excited to show this film to the community. We think it'd be very useful. Any other new business? Not seeing any. We do have one information item, and that is the agenda or the schedule for next year. I think everybody's had a chance to read that. Can I get a motion to approve the proposed schedule of board meetings? Thank you, Avis. Thank you, Andrew. All in favor? That's carried. And the date and time of our next meeting is Thursday, January 16th, right here at 7 p.m. You're off for the month of December. You've earned some time off, so use it wisely. Don't forget to write your checks to the Oakville Public Library, because we now have to fund the $5,000 we just gave to Stephen and his team. And with that, I'll look for motion to adjourn. Thank you, Meredith. Thank you, Celso. All in favor? That's carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attention.